Listen, I want to begin with what might be an obvious question for many people, because of course the UCP came together to make sure that no other party would be in contention to be Alberta's government. Yet here we have the NDP possibly looking at victory of their own. What happened?
Yeah, well, no question. This race is competitive, and I think that's because it's been a grueling 4 years of government for the UCP. There's been many things that I think have landed in the political landscape that they didn't account for when they formed government in 2019. That includes COVID, the response to COVID, the membership coming up and ousting Jason Kenney, a hotly contested and frankly grueling leadership race, and elected Danielle Smith. And she's, had some of her own gaffes that she's had to deal with from her past as well. And I think that's ultimately led to a competitive landscape here in this election. But I don't think it's just the UCP's dynamics to blame here. I think that the electorate here in Alberta has shifted. Millennials now form the largest voting bloc in the province. And there's a lot of data that indicates that millennials vote a lot more fluidly than older generations, than their parents' generations, and they're less entrenched in their political parties than they have been in the past. So I think we're seeing a competitive landscape here in Alberta, and probably for generations to come. I don't think we'll see political dynasties like we've seen in the past, namely the 44-year PC government. And I think that means that all parties, including the UCP, despite unifying their vote, are going to have to do whatever they can to remain competitive, not just in 2023, but in 2027 and beyond.
How much of that is making sure that Conservatives are actually united? Because beyond the party's name, there seems to have been some division emerging out of this campaign.
No question. I think it's crucial that the party stays united, and that will be the first effort of the leader of this party, whether it's Danielle Smith, if she wins and stays on as premier, or an eventual leader if they don't pull it off on Monday. The first order of business will be make sure the caucus is united and the membership stay united, because they need it in order to be competitive.
What do you make of the campaign? How's it gone, do you think?
It's a war. It's a total war, and I think we all expected that going into the writ period. And I think, we've seen both parties go to great lengths to try and define the ballot box question. And that will ultimately decide, I think, who wins this election. If the UCP are able to convince voters over the weekend to vote on the economy, to vote on affordability, to vote on jobs, they'll do very well on Monday. If the NDP are able to crystallize their effort in having the electorate vote on trust and accountability, then they'll do very well on Monday. And then there's, this tertiary war to define that third issue. The UCP wanted to be on public safety, and the NDP wanted to be on healthcare. So we'll have to see who ultimately wins the day on this. The air war has been so important, and it will continue straight over through the weekend.
Absolutely. Obviously, Calgary is the battleground at this point. 26 ridings that will decide who actually sits in government. Any predictions?
It's going to be a war. Like I said, right to the end, it's going to be so razor close, and the polls are indicating that. But I think the economy is going to rule the day, and I think that plays into the UCP's hands very well. So if they're able to mobilize their support and get people out to the doors and vote on that issue, I suspect they'll form government on Monday.
Now, there have been Conservatives who have gone out publicly and basically said that they are, rather than holding their noses and casting a ballot for Danielle Smith and or staying at home, that they are going to hold their nose and vote NDP. In fact, some are saying that now's the time for the old core progressive Conservatives to lend their vote to the NDP, at least for this one election, to let the UCP figure out the way forward. What do you say to that?
Well, I think there's some evidence of that. I mean, we've seen the NDP trot out some past PC ministers, past PC MLAs, some as old as the ones in the Lougheed government in the 70s. I'm not sure that's vote movers. And today, Danielle Smith got the endorsement of the Conservative leader and Pierre Poilievre. That's massive for this campaign. I think it will get voters out to the doors. He's so popular here. The federal Conservatives are pulling something like 40 points above the NDP and the Liberals in Alberta. So I think that endorsement trumps the effort of the NDP to make themselves seem like the Conservative option here, which frankly just underscores how bizarre of an election this has been in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of Conservatives jumping ship? What's your message to Conservatives who might still be vacillating before going to the ballot box?
Well, listen, I think there are some people who are reluctant to vote UCP, but have in the past voted for the Conservative alternative, have been turned on by some of the past comments made by the Premier, by some of the gaffes, and frankly, in some cases, abhorrent things said by some of the candidates. But they should be voting on the deeds, not the words. This government has done mainstream things and has offered mainstream commitments in their platform. They're going to create a low-income tax bracket for the lowest-earning Albertans. They struck a Calgary arena deal. We've seen surgery wait times drop under this government. We've seen ER wait times drop under this government. So I think the proof is in the pudding that Danielle Smith, despite some of these missteps, remains the leader of a mainstream party with conservative ideas that has done very well. The economy is doing exceptional. Also, there's a balanced budget at $12 billion surplus. I mean, I could go on and on. And I think they'll be rewarded by the electorate on Monday.
Okay, where are you going to be election night?
I'll be here in Calgary. I'll be at campaign headquarters, and I'm looking forward to watching the results come in with my colleagues.
Michael Solberg, thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.